gentlemen, it does not matter where you are sitting. Does not matter. Okay? Your respect and your attention is expected. You've been told already. Please welcome Mr. Greer, who has made the hour-and-a-half drive up here from Sarasota just to come and visit with you today. Okay, welcome him and give him your attention and your respect. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I guess you all know that Molly is my youngest daughter. I have 9 children, and according to our son, Joe, he liked to call her 8 is enough. Does that mean anything to you? 8
It wouldn't mean anything to them. They don't know the television show.
That was a television show back then. 8 is enough. So that's a joke that didn't go over. Okay? I'm not here to tell jokes anyhow. I'm here to, first of all, to thank Dr. Burnett, Cooner, and Stacy and Molly for inviting me back. I was here last year, maybe a little bit longer than a year ago at Veterans Day, I think. And I had given this so-called talk different times over the years in Sarasota and different schools around there. But it was a special privilege when Molly invited me to come up here and talk with you folks. So that's a little bit of the background of why I'm here. I had the good privilege and benefit of going to a Catholic school in Sioux City, Iowa, way back in, I guess I started kindergarten there in 1928. This uniform, when I put it on today, I figured, you know, when I had it in World War II, it was 66 years ago. You think any of you are going to have any clothes left after 66 years when you get to be 80, when you get to be 85? Anyhow, it's kind of tells you when they make things for the Army, they make them right and they do it right. So it's something that I just was thinking about this morning. But I said I went to Catholic grade school in Sioux City, Iowa, and then I went to Catholic Boys High School and Trinity High School, Sioux City, Iowa. It was a high school and a college together, and very, very good school. And there were 28 in my graduating class, and 27 of them went on to college. And this was before World War II. They were about that. But I had the advantage as a young person, just like you folks are having now, of getting good education, a special education. This is really a private school. Your teachers aren't all nuns like ours were, but they're well qualified, very well qualified. And the results that they're getting out of this school proves that. I'm here to talk about the war, and I will talk something specifically about the war. But you might be a little more interested in a few things prior to the war, and also I'll kind of try to thread through some ideas I have, like I did when I was here before. Like I say, I graduated from high school in 1941, and that was before the war. And enrolled at the University of Iowa, and 3 months after I was at the University of Iowa, was Pearl Harbor. And you history buffs know when that was. December 7th, 1943. 41. 41. Right? Yeah, 41. Yeah. Oh, sure, 1941. Like I say, I was a freshman. And so, because of that, we, the draft wasn't fully going at that time, getting ready for World War II, but they were thinking about it. But we had the opportunity to enlist, and I did, in the infantry, and the promise from them was that if we did that, we could finish not just 1, but 2 years of college before we went to war. And so that was a decision that I made. And now, I'm telling you all this because I want to tell you also. You're all about around 13, 14 years old, all right? And you may not realize it, but you're in a position to make decisions every day that are going to affect your life completely throughout. Decisions. You have to make a decision as to who's your friend. Who are your friends going to be? Are they going to be other good kids like you? Or are they going to be kids that smoke marijuana and drink and carouse and do things they shouldn't do? Out there, that's what's happening. A lot of real good kids at age 14 get thrown off the track because they didn't make the right decisions about what kind of friends they should have. Later in life, you're going to make all kinds of important decisions. Boys, you're going to have to make a decision, A, to get married, and then to whom are you going to be married? Girls, you have to make a decision whether you want to accept that kind of an offer. I don't have to really tell you this, but you know what it means. If you look at the statistics today about divorce, you know, how important it is to make the right decision for people when they get married in the first place. Now, I could go on for the rest of the hour talking about other things that are going to happen to you in life, but if you don't get anything out of this talk except one thing, just remember that. You are responsible for making your decisions. You are responsible for what's going to happen to you. Not your folks, not the teachers, not you, each one of you. So if it sounds like I'm preaching to the choir, I am, and I mean it. Well, what's that have to do with the war? Well, I had to decide what was I going to do. I had an opportunity, if I enlisted in the Army as a freshman at Iowa, that I could stay there for 2 years. So that's what I did. And that was really a good decision. Then I was gone in the war 3 years, and then I came back in 2 more years and finished school. After, in May of 43, right, that was 2 years later, I had finished that second semester, so I got to go up to my home in Sioux City before reporting to Camp Dodge in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa. And so I went up there, and then when it came time for me to leave, my mother and my grandmother took me down to the bus, down. And my grandmother, a great person. You all have grandmothers, you know how great grandmothers can be. They really, they're special people, all right? So here's what my grandmother says to me. Now, Jim. So she's got her rosary beads. I want you to have these rosary beads. all the time you're in the service. And I want to tell you one other thing. Don't lose your temper. I think I had a few occasions, a few fights or something, you know, growing up as a kid. So that was Grandma's advice. And my mother said all the things my mother would say too. But I thought that was really, really important. And these are not the same rosary beads, of course, but I did carry that pair all through the war. They were never off of my person, ever. Nope. Just like your clothes on, you know, over there in France and Germany and fighting part of the war. You know. But anyhow, that was a very significant and important thing for me at that time. Then when I first got in the Army, they sent 85 of us went from the University of Iowa out to Camp Roberts, California, and that's where our initial training, basic training. This is what they always do. If you enlisted in anything of service today, you have that kind of basic training and all that. And in this case, of course, for this time, we were going full blast with the war in Japan and also in Europe. And so we had all the training things, you know, 25-mile hikes and then here's another thing that happened that reminds me of what you did. They called us one day, we're out in the field, and all they said, no, we want you to come and be interviewed about something. So, you know, one of us were selected, went up there. But they interviewed me to see if I would qualify to go back to college right then to study either language or engineering, language or engineering. And they were doing that in our country because they needed to keep the colleges open, you know, and they were pretty vacant without any boys in them. And so I took the test, and I remember my score later was like an IQ score, like 133. And the reason it was 133 is because I had the advantage, like you children, to have a good education up to that point. And see what a benefit that is? You know, so study hard. Pay attention in school. You know, the older you get, the harder you work at it, because it pays dividends all your life. You never know when or how, but that's the way it works. So then after that, went to the University of Wyoming, I think it was 1 quarter and a half, and they were getting ready to have D-Day, the invasion over in Normandy. So they sent us all back to the infantry, and that's when I ended up in this division. This is the 66th Infantry Division. This one over here is the Rainbow Division. That's what I was in after the war ended, because they disbanded this one and kept the other one because maybe going to Japan at that time. But right. And so that summarizes it in Camp Rooker, Alabama. It doesn't make any difference where I was. But anyhow, finally, when the fall came around, D-Day was in June. And most should know a little bit about D-Day, invasion in Normandy. And it's just a gigantic enterprise, the likes of which they never had before, anyway. And so we got prepared there in Alabama to get ready to go over to Europe to fight. And so I found myself on a boat out in New York City going, it would be Thanksgiving of 1944. And I remember it well, and across, funny thing about the boat is that, the floor to the ceiling, the boat would be about like this, and there'd be bunks like that, And I'll bet there would be at least 6 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 of them. So they're don't cry like sardines in a can, you know. Oh, and everybody sees it. Well, it just not a good, not a very, it was a tough time of life, I'll say that. Now, one thing I did, though, I always tried to go to Mass every day. I went to Mass today, I went back then. I went to Mass. And so I went to Mass on the boat, and this major liked me, because the priest was a major. And so he had me come back every day to clean up the room. And so, you know, say Mass and clean up afterwards. And then I didn't have to do what all my pals were doing. They were on the other side of the boat learning how to speak French or German. And I did this, what I'm talking about, and you know what? I got Tolstoy's War and Peace. That's a real thick book. It'll be a good book for you kids. You can start reading that anytime you want. It's a famous book. That's what on my way over seas in World War II, I read Tolstoy's book, cover to cover. So then we got into France, not in England, Plymouth, England, and we were training there, more training there. Remember, this is after Thanksgiving, and before Christmas. Okay? So, at 5 o'clock Christmas morning, a sergeant came in and awakened me and a few others and said, "Come on." I said, "Where are we going?" They said, "Never mind where you're going. Get in the Jeep." So, you would always do what you're told, so we got in the Jeep. And we must have driven 40 miles. And we really drove to Dorchester, England. And why were we there? We were on a detail to clean up the camp. And the camp was where some of the rest of our division had been. And they had been alerted Christmas Eve afternoon, you know, to get on that ship to go to the war. The ship was called well, I should say this. At 9 o'clock Christmas night, there we were. Nobody came to get us or anything like that. So what was going to happen? Well, what did happen? Well, what happened was while we were gone, my company was called to go to the Battle of the Bulge. Battle of the Bulge was a German counteroffensive. It started about the 15th of December, and it lasted till about the 25th and 6th of January. But that's really, if you're reading history books about World War II, that's the thing you'll read the most about, is the Battle of the Bulge, Battle of the Bulge. But the first ship had 2,300 men on it. It was called the Leopoldville, a Belgian troop transport, and 5 miles from Cherbourg. So Cherbourg is along the coast of France. You know, Cherbourg, Bordeaux, Nantes. So we were some. And we lost in our division 877 men. It was 5 miles from Cherbourg, but they couldn't really know that. And the Belgians, who were running the ship, they took off. And those our guys staying there. And those of our guys that could were able to jump from that boat to another survivor boat that came alongside them. And some of them just drowned doing that. It's Christmas Eve and it's snowing like that. But anyhow, this is what happened. And so now backing up a little bit, a day or two. Now they found us at 9 o'clock that night. back there Point of Embarkation, division headquarters, and the general said, these men can't go to the foreign shores without their weapons. So we just, all we had was what we were wearing, you know. Not a nice thing like this. This was in a duffel bag someplace. But no, I just said whatever, wearing fatigues that day and shoes. So they equipped us with English clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And then in a couple of days we got on an LCI, that's a landing craft infantry. And we went from Dorchester over to Cherbourg. And when we get near the water, near the shore rather, they dropped that big thing at the end of, down like that in the water, and then you just wade through the water to the shore. That's how most all of our guys got over there for D-Day, if they could get across, just have the landing craft infantry, and then that dropped down. But I didn't have anybody shooting at me then, because that was Cherbourg, and that was a couple of days after Christmas. And at the same time, of course, remember I said before that the Germans had this counteroffensive going. It had started the 15th of December, and they had really done quite well. The statistics on the Battle of the Bulge were just this. It lasted 39 days, and there's another note here I want to tell you about something about that ship. It's kind of funny. But anyhow, it lasted 39 days, and we had 81,000 wounded and 19,000 killed. And the Germans had 100,000 Germans wounded or captured or killed. 100,000, in about like a month's time. So that when I say that the Battle of Bulge is significant, why that's you'll read about it in history. I mean, the war was a lot more than the Battle of the Bulge, of course, but because it was so effective and so important that we stopped them, from getting pushing us back and winning the war, which we did. See, at the same time that they had their offensive going against us, they were also fighting the Russians on the other side. So it was a very gigantic, ambitious plan that Hitler had. That thank God it didn't work out. So see what else I wanted to say about the battle. This is significant because of what happened. Obviously, there's 15,000 men in the division, and obviously, we weren't in any shape if you lost as many men as we did, and so anyhow, instead of us regrouping and trying to get over there, they took the 94th Division, which had been stationed along France, like I said, Bordeaux, Saint-Nazaire, Lorient, and had 80,000 Germans penned in there. That's where their submarine base was, where they shot our boat. And so the 94th just kept them in there like that. So the Army said to the 94th, okay, you guys go up to the Bulge, and 66, Barry, you guys go in here. And so that's what I did. And that's why I'm standing here today. Because all we had to do was shoot back and forth. Didn't take any land. And I was an 81 millimeter mortar. And that a mortar would go like from one corner of your property here past the other corner, maybe a little bit farther than that. And so then the Germans over there had 88, that was a very famous gun they had. Big, it would hit before you'd hear it from where that was. But anyhow, that's what happened. Now, let's see, with anything else, I don't know if anything really special. Well, I say we went in there and did that, and worked out fine. And then we move up and down, so they would know where our gun was. I don't know, but anyway, anyhow, we survived. War is war, so I don't. All right, now, the one thing I was gonna tell you about going on that ship, you know, I told you I was sick and all that. I was an enlisted man, and if you're an enlisted man, you had to take a saltwater shower. Yeah, you made a face, so did I. Yeah, you know why? The officers were at the other end of the shower, and they had fresh water showers. I told you I had a good education. I wasn't dumb. The next day I figured, who the hell's gonna know?
That's okay.
Who's,
Fine,
who-
yeah.
who's gonna know what I am, so nobody has any clothes on, so I showered in the officer's shower. GIs, that's what they call, you know, GIs have a way of figuring out how they can take care of themselves. And they're Americans, you're Americans. And when you get your back against the wall, you know how to work your way out. You've been taught how to do it, and you just do it. You don't have to have somebody holding your hand. Just get out there and do it. So now am I doing in time, Molly?
You're good, Dad. I think you have about 20 minutes.
Okay. All right, so then, oh, now the war ended in Germany. And one of your students last year, they had the question and answer thing afterwards, talking like I'm talking now, you know. And this young guy said, "What did you think of FDR?" You know who FDR is, don't you?
Yes, I
Franklin
do.
Yes, they
Delano
do.
Roosevelt. And I quickly said, I didn't like him one bit.
And I went,
And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw your teacher just go, oh. But I said, but, you know, I got a little bit smarter after that, and I really read a lot of books, and I read Doris King's, whatever, Sherwood's book, you know, about Franklin. And so I feel he was one of the top 3 presidents we ever had. Gonzalez. Where did I learn that? I learned that in the Catholic school. You know, if you make a mistake or something, cover it quickly, huh? You gotta think on your feet. But that's what happened that day. Now I was, and so after the war ended, I didn't have enough points to go home. I had so many points, and this tells I was over 18 months, but that wasn't enough to go. And so I did what I was told. Oh, I remember this now. Listen, this has to do with how the people on either side of the war, really deep down what they're like. And now I'm going to tell you about the Germans. See these guys right here? Okay. Now, my job at the end of the war there at Marseille, France, was to help get soldiers from Europe back over to America and then back over to Japan. And so this is the big, what they call a staging area. And my private first class Greer was in charge of getting the groceries and things like that in the kitchen. So I had 8 German prisoners of war who were my employees. And I had a 2.5-ton truck that I learned how to drive. And I'd go over to the commissary, I'd take them with me, and we'd load the truck with groceries. And I always remember this, at the top of the truck, they had bread. And you know what a mattress cover is? Well, they had mattress covers in the Army too, or they did over there. And so they put bread on those mattress covers, great big thing. And then we put that across the top of the truck to keep anything from falling out of the truck. You know? But these men, you know, they were soldiers there. And they would say, Ruski, you know, this one guy didn't have any eye, you know, because the Russians had taken his eye out.
But anyhow, they liked us, and I liked them. You know what? You know what? The war was over. What difference does it make how you felt before? And I'm alive, I'm well. They're alive, they're well. You know, so it came time for us to be moved up to Austria from Marseille, and also when I did that, then they made this cartoon for me, and it says, 8 kitchen prisoners of war. Oh, good luck for your future, and always a good hunger. And here's a picture of me, really, you know, trying to tell them what to do, and then kitchen Saint Victor at Marseille, France, September 30th, 1945.
And those are all their signatures.
Those are all their signatures.
Can I pass it around to the kids
Sure,
then?
sure. So I just.
Please be careful.
I'm trying to remember
Okay.
to show you that, because, you know, we've always been in wars, probably always will be. I hate to say that, but probably, you know, it's a goofy world out there. But when it happens, if we get in a war, all of us John Q. citizens have little or not much to say about it. You know, it's decided somewhere for some reason. But the fact of the matter really is this: that not counting the SS troopers or some of those other jerks, you know, but the normal GI, well, the jerks, it's a thing. The normal GI, the normal soldier over there in Germany, he can be a pretty normal guy. He can get exercised at the time of war and all that, but once the war is over, what? They're just normal people. All right, now, oh, then when we get up, we moved up to Austria, and there's another, if you're gonna get in the service, you have any athletic ability, use it, because that's your key to feel comfortable, nice living. And that's what I did. I was guarding a.
Oh, Dad, I'll get it. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry
I
about it.
was guarding some bad German guys down in a cage and like that. I just had a machine gun pointing down at them. They were the worst kind of SS guys. Anyhow, a Jeep came along, said, "Are you Greer?" And I said, "Yeah." "Hop in." I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "I'll tell you." I said, "Well, where are we going?" "Oh," he said, "going to Hofgastein." He said, "You like to play football?" And I said, "Yeah, I love to play football." I said, "Well, that's where you're going." So he takes me up to this resort town in Austria, 5 miles from where the German or the Japanese embassy was, Hofgastein, Hofgastein, 80 kilometers from Salzburg. Beautiful mountains, you know, beautiful skiing, oh, just great. And that's where I was going to play football. And it was about 6 o'clock at night or so. So he take me to this place, and I'm going to be staying in a resort hotel. That means sheets, white sheets on the bed, and white linen tablecloths in the dining room. Wow, really? So I finished dinner, and I asked the waitress, I said, "Where's everybody?" They said, "They're over at the Kursaal." That's a town hall for up there in Hofgastein, Austria. They're watching a movie. So I go over there. The movie was on, you know, it didn't dark, you know. I looked up at Center Island. I thought, well, I have a place to sit down. So I walked up to Center Island, walked like this, sit down. So help me God. Right next to, between Jack Froggatt and Adam Sepanowski. They were 2 of my best friends, you know, from the war, you know. And so Adam was Froggatt was a center, Adam was a guard, and I was a tackle on the football team. And so that was just wonderful. And then we won all our games. We were second string, we weren't first string. We won all our games, so the colonel loved us. So that we could go wherever we wanted to go. So 23 of us went to Switzerland for Christmas. So it's kind of fun to be able to play sports, you know, especially from home. And another thing, after that, Oh, yeah, I had a chance to go to Lourdes, France. And then I was, I forget, but anyhow, I really didn't have any money. Oh, when I was, Lourdes, yeah, that's right. So this Jewish fellow in our company, Goldberg was his name, and he wanted to lend me the money. He said, oh, for me to go to Lourdes. But I didn't do that. So I went to Lourdes, and I didn't have any money, not much. But anyhow, I sold my raincoat to buy some holy beads and holy pictures and all that. And then I got to serve mass right down there in the where all the crutches are and all that. It's like, Lourdes is a great experience of any of you that have families go there. All about it. It's more of the Catholic faith. Boy, it's alive and well, was then, is now. And I can remember going around, I see with everybody with a little candle, and dark as pitch dark, you know, at night, going over, singing, Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. It almost chokes you. Thinking of it. I mean, this is what your faith was then, this is today. Maybe it's because of my age, I'm getting emotional. I don't know. I get the shakes and a few other things, so maybe that's more, I don't know. But be that as it may. Then after that, Lourdes and all, then pretty soon came time, we had to go home. And be back with our loved ones and go back to college and all. And I came into New York City, had a big thrill, you know, to see we get back. What does this have to do with the war? I don't know, except that it's all a part of the whole scheme of things. But when they carve 3 years out of your life, and you can later on go back and think of all the good things. You don't have to think of any bad thing. And one thing it does, it'll do for you folks too, and that is it'll educate you. You'll learn a lot if you have to do it. Another thing about that, you children, like when Molly went to college, all right, she was the last one, and she paid for 25 to 33% of her college education, total college costs. The reason she could do that is because I gave her $10 or $20 at a time of cash as she was growing up, like you were. But the money from Publix had to go in the bank for Molly for college. They did that with all the children in our family. So when they all got their degrees, but who owed money? Their dad. Not my children. They had paid for it. You children, all your kids, their dads could all be doctors. That doesn't mean you could ever get through college without borrowing money. It's just one of the biggest pet peeves today is the exorbitant cost of college. Now, I won't be around, but what might happen, you can do it now. If you want to volunteer to the service, you can volunteer, and that will enable you to go to college and have the government pay for your college. You can do it. But they might work out a better deal for you later on, where you don't have to volunteer. Maybe they're going to draft you or something now, but somehow or other, in your lifetime, I hope to get that solved, because it's not right or not fair today to get out of college owing $20, $40, $50, $80, $100,000. And those are the figures, I know. I've got grandchildren, I know. It's not a good picture. There I got off at another one of my tangents. I've got all these lectures that I have to give.
Okay, then you're just proving that it's genetic.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Well, that's fine. I told you enough about the Battle of Bulge. I think that's how many were dead and all that. see if there's anything. I'm sure when I get home, back home, I'll think of some things that I,
We have about 5 minutes or so, Dad. Could they ask you questions if they have any?
oh, sure, right, when I finish, but before I finish, I want to just say one more time what I said earlier on, you know, and that is this. You have to be on the right track at age 14. Don't get derailed. Pay attention to your teachers. Pay attention to your folks. Do your own thing. Don't get tangled up with some bimbo, some baby. You know, just don't do it. You know, no matter how much they might impress you at the time, but surround yourself like you have. You have this opportunity because you kids all come from good stock, or you wouldn't be here. But the world out there isn't that way. There's a lot of people are good people, but they get on the wrong track. They didn't have the advantage. They didn't have two parents. You don't all have two parents either. That's another part of this crazy world that we're in, you know. But you do have at least one parent, and you have a whole school full of people like Molly and Stacy. So anyhow, take advantage of that. I hope that I've been able to give you some ideas, and essentially that if you ever have to be in a war, just make the most of it. You'll have the skills, you'll have the brains, you'll have the ability. And that goes for life. Life just goes that way, you know, ups and downs, you know, one challenge after another, but I'll overcome this one and then back together. But count your blessings and thank God for what you have every day. Thank you.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand.
Oh, yeah, yes, please. Yes,
Adam,
Just
go ahead.
stand.
Stand up and say it
Well,
loud.
I called on this over.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's that
What's what?
award?
We didn't talk about the Bronze Star yet,
Oh,
Dad.
all right.
Just observant
All right,
students.
All right, this is the combat infantry badge. Well, that's right here. Gotta take this thing off before you take
Yeah.
my picture.
Well, we'll take another picture.
But, see, this combat infantry badge, that's what I'm really proud of. That's a big deal. And you have to be shot at to get that. They don't have to hit you, but I mean, somebody has to, you know, infantry is. So that's what that is. And then this is a Bronze Star, and that's that thing, not that thing. I mean, that's a nice thing, you know, but
Private First Class James R. Greer, meritorious achievement in ground combat against the armed enemy during World War II in the European, African, Middle Eastern Theater of Operations.
so a few million guys got that, really. I mean, you know, there isn't any
But
single.
a few million more didn't. So
Well, yeah,
still
but
something
I
to be
mean,
proud of.
I'm not any kind of a hero.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, but I mean, well, one single shot doesn't take somebody out, you know, and bunker on the hills or something like that. But I did my job, that's right. I did what I was supposed to do, and I'm glad to have it, you know, otherwise I wouldn't have it on the frame, you know. But I'm really proud of this uniform, you know. Isn't that pretty neat, 66 years old?
Yes.
Huh?
That is very impressive.
All right, now there's a question in the back there.
Adam,
What was your favorite country in Europe, or favorite city to go to in Europe?
Well, my favorite city to go to in Europe, I didn't get to until after the war.
that would be Florence, Italy. But during the war, I guess I have to say Switzerland, because it was the most normal place. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say London, or, no, I'd say Switzerland during the war, and Florence after.
Sammy?
Yeah.
Like, all the Germans that you were fighting against, were all of them Nazis?
Oh, no. That's a very good question. No, they weren't. They, of course, you know, I've met a lot since then, since the war, and all that. I don't think I ever met a real lousy Nazi, you know, like we would think of as mean. The only time I met him would be after the war, and I didn't meet any of them after the war. And I met a lot of nice German people, and some that, you know, that, well, you know, I had one friend, a pretty good friend I used to play golf with, but I like to hear him tell jokes about things, you know, but I didn't respect him. He didn't have the right kind of respect. I didn't. He was still bad enough for a crowd in. Yes.
In the end, do you think it was all worth it, like going in the war and stuff?
Going in the war? Yes. I mean, personally and as a country. See, if we didn't, in my opinion, if we didn't go into World War II, not just forget Japan. I mean, that, I'm saying it's true there too. But if we didn't go into World War II, England would never have survived. You know, and if we lost England, you know, in fact, even today England is really important. But way back then, it was really, you know, historically, you know. So, so I think it's the same way with, you know, as we get into it right now. I think the war we've been in Iraq is, I think, very important that we get in there and get it cleaned up and do that, you know. And I don't let politics get into my way, you know. I've got a good mind, and I've been there, done that, you know. And so I love our country, and I want to keep it the way it is. Yes.
One last question. And I know if you visit with
Huh?
During the war, did you ever regret that you signed up?
Did what?
Did you ever regret that you signed up for
Did
the
you
war?
regret
Oh,
enlisting?
no, never. No. Oh, no, absolutely not. Well, no, this was our country. You know, that was, I'm like you would know, you know, our country. No, I didn't. No. Can't we have any more? Why do we have to split?
No, we can have a few more questions, Dad. It's just that, as I was telling you before, the 8th grade presents the Stations of the Cross next Thursday to the rest of the school.
We can wait.
We can have a couple more minutes?
Right? Definitely.
I think we do have a few more minutes, so.
Yes, sir.
Did you like have any special celebration after like when you heard the war was over?
Yes, I did. I could still celebrate. No, I did. I remember, for me, the war, and not my war, you know, because I was going to have to go to Japan, but you know, it was you know, right. So we beat the Japanese. Was like in June 18th or July 18th, I forget. I know right where I was, and I heard that. Boy, that was great, because then I was really delighted. Then I knew I could get back out of the Army eventually and get back to college. Yeah.
Did you ever keep in touch with anybody you met during the Army?
Pardon?
Did you keep in touch with people you met in the Army, like after the
Oh,
for a
yeah,
long
thank you. That's a good question. One of my best friends is Jack Froggatt out in California. In fact, I got a lot of information on D-Day from one of my sons who's an Army war buff. And I'm going to send it to Jack Froggatt out in California. I stayed friends with a lot of them, of course, several are dead
I
now.
remember Jack Froggett is the man he ended up sitting next to when he went to the movie theater.
Yeah, that was he.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robbie,
And then go ahead.
stand up.
Hard- Stand up and then speak loud, because I'm hard of hearing.
What gun did you use during the war?
Pardon me?
What gun did you use?
I had a 45 pistol, but an 81 millimeter mortar that I explained, that would shoot. If you drop a shell into a tube, there's 3 guys that run this, see, and then one guy does it, and to gauge where you want the shell to go, it could go 800 yards.
When you sit home and during your days and you think about the memories that you had in the war, I mean, honestly, when you just, are you retired?
Yes. He is retired.
Yeah, I'm retired, I'm 85 years old, and I had a wonderful career in sales, and had 9 children, and they're all through college, and I live on Uncle Key, and life, God and life have been very good to me.
When you stay home and you think about all the memories that you had and all the battles and everything, do you feel that you served your country with everything you had?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And thank you for asking the question. Yes, yes. I did everything I was told to do, asked to do, but I remember when I was getting on the gangplank in New York to go, I was a private first class. I never had a chance to go to officers school or anything. And it's just get yourself over and get yourself back. And that's what I did. I'm the survival of the fittest. And that's how I felt. I did never do anything wrong, but I got myself back.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Did you find your wife before or after when you came back from
Well,
Europe?
that's a good question.
How are you going to answer
No,
that
no,
one?
I can answer that question. My first wife I met outside of St. Mary's Church in Iowa City, Iowa. Her brother introduced me to her. That was my first wife, the mother of the 9 children. And Miriam died when Molly was a sophomore in high school. And about a year and a half later, I married a girl named Sue Sullivan, who was the last girl I went with before I met Miriam.
Yes. After Dad got back from the war and he lived in Sioux City, Iowa for a time, he actually dated the woman who's now my stepmother. But he dated Sue back then. She was the best friend of my aunt.
Yeah.
And then she went off to college at Iowa State University, which is in Ames, Iowa. And my dad returned to the University of Iowa, which is in Iowa City. And it was in Iowa City that my mom's brother introduced his good friend Jim Greer to his sister.
So you should
Miriam,
tell,
who's my
you should tell
mom.
this, Molly, that after I got back to Sue, met Sue, and I said to her, Sue, when you dumped me back there, why the hell would you? Why would you ever dump a good guy like Jim Greer? And she said, you want to know? And I go, well, that's why I'm asking you. She said, my mother thought you drank too much. Now, you heard me talking to you about your drinking so much.
I have one last question, Mr. Chair. I find the badge on your uniform so very interesting. Can you tell us what that badge is of the black cat that's on the side there, please?
This one here is a Black Panther,
Black Panther, okay.
and that's the 66th Infantry Division insignia. And
66th
so,
Infantry Division
yes.
insignia.
Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
66 Infantry Division. And this one here is the Rainbow. That's the 42nd Division that was in both World War I and World War II. And that's the Rainbow Division. And that was after they had to, get rid of the 66th Division when the war ended, after the war in Japan too. So then they had to assign us to something, so that was the 42nd. That's where I had the colonel that liked football. All right? You all set?
Yes. Anything
Okay,
else?
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
All the kids.
If you think I'd lecture to you, I was.